Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, and we're going to be looking at verses 1 through 7 tonight. 1 through 7 of Song of Solomon, chapter 2. It says, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. As a lily among brambles, so is my love among the young women. As an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Sustain me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am sick with love. His left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. I want you to see first that everyone is unique. Everyone is unique. You know, I hear it thrown around a lot about calling people snowflakes. You ever heard anybody call somebody else a snowflake? Well, aren't you just a little snowflake? And I think that it's kind of one of those things where words change over time. Used to, people would say that people are like snowflakes because they're all different. Right? Because when the ice crystals form a certain way, if you look at snowflakes under a microscope, you see everybody looks different. Well, now it means that you're weak and you're going to melt and you can't take anything that doesn't get your way. And I see that thrown about both ways. It's like, well, all the Democrats, they're snowflakes. All the Republicans, they're snowflakes. All the young kids are snowflakes. All the old people, they're snowflakes. That's just what everybody seems to say. Well, in a way, we are all snowflakes because we're all different. Maybe I could say we're all like fingerprints. You know, that's one thing that keeps us different. Why do they fingerprint you when you go to the courthouse? If you get arrested, they fingerprint you because that's an identity marker, something they can match up and they can see. Same reason why if you decided you want to get a concealed carry permit, what are they going to do? They're going to take your fingerprints. And why do they take your fingerprints? Because they're going to run them through a database and make sure that they didn't find your fingerprints anywhere where they're trying to solve a crime, and make sure that you are an upstanding citizen. Everyone is unique. Everybody is different. Imagine how boring life would be if everybody was the same. I kind of think of what must be some boring lives. That would be like an ant, where all the workers, same thing goes kind of with bees. With bees, you've got certain kinds of bees that have certain kind of jobs, but then you've got all the worker bees, and what are they? They're like exactly the same. They're programmed like robots, and they do the same thing, and they do the same thing, and they do the same thing, and everybody does it, and nothing's different. Imagine if humans were like that. How boring would our lives be? It's the variety that is the spice of life that makes it there. And here, they are celebrating the uniqueness. And not only the uniqueness, but how unique the person is to them. She says, I'm a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valley. She basically says, hey, I'm good looking. I'm good looking out there. And then he says, oh yeah, you're like a lily among the brambles. He says, when I look at you, you're just different than everybody else. Everybody else looks like a thorn when I look at you. You look like a lily. You look beautiful. He says, among all the young women, I can pick you out because you're the best looking one. It's a good thing to say. Solomon got major brownie points when he said, you're like a lily among the thorns among the young women. And then she returns the favor. She says in verse 3, as an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. Imagine being hungry and being lost in the woods and walking up and seeing an apple tree. Wouldn't that make you happy? Everything else are pines. Anybody ever tried to eat pine tree? Doesn't taste good. Pine cone is not good. Cedar smells good. Doesn't taste good. Not that I've especially tasted it. Oak, I don't like to eat acorns. I don't look like a squirrel. But if I found an apple tree, guess what I'd be? I'd be happy. I'd be happy because I would eat of those apples. And she says, you're different than everybody else. I go around and what I see in the world is I see pine tree after pine tree, and I see oak tree after oak tree, and I see cedar tree after cedar tree. But then I see you and I see an apple tree. Different than everybody else. We have to celebrate the uniqueness in our relationships. Celebrate the differences that we have. We have a lot of things in common, right? I've always told people when you're getting married, you should marry, if you're a believer, you should marry a believer. I believe that the Scripture talks pretty clearly about that. It says not to be unequally yoked. And I think that's pretty clear what he's talking about. As you work together with life, you should be working together with someone who is a believer. But then you need to marry somebody that's a little bit different than you, because that's what makes it fun. Remember when the first time Martha came over to our house to eat? Everybody in my family loves mustard. We all love mustard. And my dad, his big thing on the grill at that time was he liked to grill chicken on the grill and then rub honey mustard barbecue sauce on it. And we went in there to eat, and I was eating, and I said, oh, Daddy, this is so good. And everybody else was saying, boy, I love this chicken. And Martha said, this was really nice, thank you very much. But she hid all her chicken under the mashed potatoes because she cannot stand mustard. It makes her gag. She didn't like it. But that's brought a lot of fun. We celebrate that difference. Like last night when we were eating, I had a little thing of honey, of mustard sauce, and I said, hey, you want some of this? She goes, get that away from me before I lose it. And you know, we celebrate those kind of things. And that's what we have to do. We celebrate it. I mean, that's a petty thing, of course. We could celebrate some of the differences that we have because that's what makes things interesting. So that's number one, is to remember that all are unique. And then number two, we have to remember that relationships require closeness. It's hard to love somebody from a distance. It's hard to grow a relationship from a distance. You think about how hard it is on military families when one of the spouses has to be away for 9-10 months at a time. I've got a friend that just got back, and then he was back for a few weeks, and then he had to be gone again. And you think about that, how tough it is to build relationships like that. It takes a lot more hard work than if you're right there. It's hard. It's hard to have a relationship from a distance. You know, friends that I had when I was growing up, part of the reason that we don't talk as much anymore is because we never see each other. We just never see each other. And so we don't have the relationship that we used to have. It's hard to love from a distance. And what they say, she says, he brought me to the banqueting house. His banner over me was love, that they were together, that he was showing her love. He's showing it while he was together. Banner over me, love. Then the intimacy there. His left hand is under my head and his right hand embraces me. He's holding her there. That closeness that's there. It's one of the things that's been so difficult with people with the coronavirus. It's how people haven't been able to see people. I think about people in nursing homes and people in hospitals that have passed away and not been able to have their family with them, and how it hurt them, or people that just had long recoveries, not able to be seen. It's just tough. It's hard. It's hard because our body yearns out for that kind of closeness. It's hard when we can't shake hands. It's hard when we can't hug. It's hard when I was wondering the other day, they've been telling us to bump elbows, but then where do they tell us to sneeze? Tell us to sneeze in our elbow. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, I mean, when we don't have that physical contact, it's tough. Scientists have looked at this, and they've looked at how your brain functions. and looked at the difference between when you leave somebody that you're married to, and you're going to work, or they're going to work, or y'all are both going to work, you're doing whatever. If you give just a little like that and leave, it doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't do a whole lot for your brain. But if you do more of a, do it like 5 to 10 seconds, you know what your brain starts doing? You got happy stuff start going on in your brain, and it makes a difference in your day. And it's the same thing when you think about shaking a hand versus hugging somebody. It's the same way. You shake a hand, you get a few little happy things going. You give somebody a hug, you start having a lot of happy things going on, because it's that closeness that we desire. It's, hey, without saying it, you're saying, I love you, I respect you, I'm not repulsed by you, I'm not repelled by you. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Relationships require closeness. They really do. And that's not just marital relationships, that's all relationships. It's hard to build a relationship over Zoom or WebEx or any other kind of thing, Microsoft Teams, if that's what you use. I've got so many virtual meeting things installed on my computer now, I don't know what to do. FaceTime, Facebook Live, all these things. Hard to build a relationship that way. It really is. It requires closeness. Then think about our application, as we've done in each message as we go through Song of Solomon. We talk about how it applies to Jesus and His bride, the church. We celebrate Jesus' uniqueness, and He does ours. We celebrate how He is unique in His power, how He is unique in His knowledge, how He is unique in His love, how He is unique in all those things. We celebrate Jesus' uniqueness. And you know what Jesus also does? He celebrates our uniqueness. Why? Because He created us different. He created us equal, yes, but He created us different. We look different. We talk different. We have different pitches of our voice. We have different hair. Some people keep their hair forever and it never changes color. Some people's hair changes color. Some people's hair falls out. We're all different. He's created us that way. But He celebrates that uniqueness because He's given us that for reasons. And He loves us despite our uniqueness, and He shows us love in different ways because of our uniqueness. We have to get close with Him. You have to build that closeness of a relationship with Jesus. How do you do it? Number one, you got to read His Word. You need to pray. You need to spend time meditating, thinking about Him. When Martha and I were first dating, I used to write her a love note every morning and give it to her at school. I was so sweet. That was a long time ago. But now, what would our relationship have been like if Martha just stuck it in her pocket and then 4 weeks later decided to pull it out and read it? She wouldn't have been very excited. Well, we got the same thing. God's written you a love note, and He wants you to read it, and He wants you to think about it. Every time Martha would send me a love note, I read it 7 or 8 times because I was looking for all kinds of hints because I heard women are hard to read. So I tried all I could to do it. That's what we need to do. We need to think about it, meditate it on what He has given to us as His book to us. God didn't write the Bible. Yes, He wrote it for His own glory, But he didn't have to write it. He wrote it so that we could read it and so that we could know it. And that's what we want to do, is we want to get close to him. And the best way we do that is through prayer and the meditating on his word. So remember, everybody's unique and we can celebrate their uniqueness. Relationships require closeness, and we should celebrate Jesus' uniqueness and get close to him. Any comments or questions on that?